Hi everyone, it's been ages since I did a proper exercise here, but there's some stuff going on like GDPR and Gutenberg that will hopefully spur me to do some more recordings for you. Today we're just going to have a quick look at two things you might need to do to make your Google Analytics privacy a little bit better, to tweak the privacy level up. This is something you may or may not need to do for GDPR, and it probably won't really hurt your analytics very much, but it will increase your users' privacy. So the background to this is that GDPR is putting tighter controls on people's data that you collect about them, and Google Analytics is one way in which you might be collecting data about people. So it's important to review what data you're collecting, and if you can tone that down and collect less information about people if you don't need all the information that Google Analytics collects. And you also want to review what's called the retention period, so how long you actually keep that information for. Now, if you have a Google Analytics account, you should have had an email or a couple of emails by now that tell you about some new data retention controls. And if you log in, you will see this in this banner up here as well. And we're just going to quickly review a couple of things that we can do here that will reduce the amount of data that we collect, and we'll just go in and show you how to check your data retention on your analytics too. So I'm in my Google Analytics for my personal blog, and I'm going to go and review my data retention settings. And it says here we've recently launched some new controls that may affect your data from the 25th of May. And what we'll need to do is just go in and review that setting. You should have had an email telling you how to do this, but I'm showing you here. So you go to admin at the bottom left, and then you want to go to the middle column, which is the property settings, and you want to click on tracking info, and then under there it says data retention. And here is the setting that you've been asked to review, and it comes as default with 26 months, so that's just over 2 years worth of data. If you don't need to keep data for that long, then the whole aim of GDPR is that you only collect the data that you need. So if you don't need 26 months worth of data to compare over 2 years, then maybe you just need 14 months worth. So we can set that there, and we can click save. And then when these settings take effect on the 25th of May, you will only have data stored in Google Analytics for 14 months. Now, the other thing that you may want to do is you may want to prevent Google Analytics collecting IP addresses. And IP addresses are considered to be personal data, so this is something that you might want to do just in order to protect the privacy of your users. And you can do that in WordPress. I'm actually using a plugin for my Google Analytics called Monster Insights. And the settings for that are on this page here with the little monster. And if we go to tracking here and click demographics, you'll see here that there's an option to anonymize IP addresses. And an IP address is made up of 4 different numbers. So if I open a new tab, a typical IP address might look like 81.125.65.34 or something like that. There are 4 different numbers, and what this anonymization will do is it will remove the last of those 4 numbers and just, it will remove it and replace it with probably a 0. So that means that you've gone from something which may be personally identifiable to a number which will not personally identify someone, and therefore Google's analytics platform won't be able to track individual users as they move around your website and on the internet. So if we tick this here and click Save Changes, then that's all set, and we've increased our users' privacy, and that's a good thing. So if you're using Monster Insights, that's where you go to do that. And if you're using a different plugin, then hopefully you'll have a setting to enable this anonymize IP option here. So I hope that's useful. GDPR is a really good thing. It gives users control back over their data and makes us as organizations think harder about what data we're collecting about people and what we're doing with it in order to protect them from bad things that might happen. So it's really good to build up trust with your users, and I recommend taking these 2 actions and stop collecting data that you don't need to be collecting. I'm actually going to be removing Google Analytics from a few places and using another tool which has an even higher level of privacy. You might not want to do that. You might love the features that Google Analytics gives you, but I'd encourage you to maybe consider other options. Do you need all of the wonderful stuff that Google Analytics gives you, or could you use some kind of simpler analytics that doesn't collect as much data and doesn't have all the clutter and stuff in Google Analytics that you may not need? So just something to think about.